Hello and welcome. This is Cheryl Major, and I want to welcome you to Westford Area Real Estate, the podcast. Today, I am joined by Ellen Harde, and she has a very special project she's going to share with us. I think you'll be as excited about it as I am. But before we get to that, I want to share a little bit about Ellen. And there's so much to share. I'm going to read it so I don't miss anything. Let's see. Ellen and her husband Mike have lived in Westford since 1967. In that time, they've owned 4 historic buildings in Westford Center. Ellen has worked on 4 books about the history of Westford and has served as a docent at the museum and a schoolmarm at the 1880 Parker Village Schoolhouse. Ellen was elected to the Board of Selectmen in 1972, becoming the first woman in the town's history to be seated on that board. And from 1993 to 1917, from 1993 to 2017, Ellen was the moderator of town meeting. Ellen has exciting news to share with us, and I'm so excited to welcome you to the podcast today.
You're
Ellen.
So gracious to let me tell the story about the Drew Farmhouse. Thanks,
I can't wait. No, so tell us, what is your newest project?
Well, the newest project came about when, like everybody else in town, my husband Mike and I saw Coldwell Banker move out of the red farmhouse that's at the end of Boston Road, just as you get to 495. And that was exactly 2 years ago, actually. It was in the fall of 2021. So the scuttlebutt was what's going to happen. So we watched that space, and then we saw the for sale sign come up in that spring, and the question was still, what's going to happen? And what percolated in our minds was the fact that 7 years before, Mike and I bought the old Wright and Fletcher General Store, which is at 40 Main Street. And we bought that for 2 reasons. We wanted to be sure it stayed looking just like it has since it was built in 1837, and it has 5 apartments in it. It's across the street from our home, so we knew those people. And we didn't want somebody to buy it, condominiumize it, and those people would be out of pretty affordable apartments. So we bought 5 apartments and 5 tenants. And what we have found, Cheryl, is that the demand for places that people can live in Westford who have a good job but just can't afford to live in this town anymore, we get calls all the time asking if one of those 5 apartments is available.
Wow.
So I think it was probably a year ago in the fall when the house had been on the market, when the Drew Farmhouse, that's its historical name, also the Coldwell Banker building.
Yes.
I said to Mike, do you think there's a chance in the world that we could do with the Drew Farmhouse what we've done at the Wright and Fletcher store, which is to provide affordable housing in the town of Westford for people who grew up here but can't live here anymore? So we started this journey that has taken us to coming to town meeting on October 16th to ask the town to partner with us. Basically what has happened is that we created a nonprofit. It's called the Drew Farmhouse, Inc. Our offer to buy the building was accepted in August, and we signed the purchase and sale earlier this month in September. And the difference between the farmhouse and the general store is that the Wright and Fletcher building came with 5 finished apartments and 5 tenants. What we inherit when we purchase the Drew Farmhouse is 40 real estate cubicles.
Including my old one.
Including your
which
old
I love,
office.
Which you know.
How many years were you there that you sat in?
Just about 10.
About 10 years.
Yeah.
So you know the building well.
Oh, yeah.
So what happened, Cheryl, was it was built as a 2-family. It was a farmhouse, but 2 families lived there, and it was built that way. In 1980, Emerson Real Estate turned the barn into a real estate office, but the house was still house. But then in 1994, when Coldwell Banker got the building, they went to the town and said, we'd like to have the real estate office be throughout. It's zoned residential, but they got variances to allow it to be all real estate. So turning it back into dwellings, specifically 5 affordable apartments, is a very different ballgame. That's a big investment. It's going to cost about $1.2 million to do 5 apartments. So we thought maybe we could make this a 3-partner deal. The Drew Farmhouse, backed by my husband and I, will buy the farmhouse. We will go to the town of Westford because the town, over 20 years ago, voted to increase property taxes by 3% for what's called the Community Preservation Act. And that money is on your tax bill every time, so it's already sitting in the bank. The town has raised that money, And the town, by state law, can only spend it for affordable housing, historic preservation, and open space. So the reason we were buying the Drew farmhouse was to provide affordable housing and to keep that building looking exactly as it does now forever. So we're going to town meeting to be our partner in this. We'll buy the farmhouse, but we're asking them for the money to help us renovate it. And that would come out of the community preservation money. So that's Article 7 on the warrant for the special town meeting October 16th at 7 p.m. at Westford Academy.
So that's wonderful. I have a question that I think everybody listening to this will wonder. Will the appropriation of the funds that are already sitting there, will that raise taxes?
Absolutely not. The town, each resident already committed to paying that. When the CPA surcharge, as it's called, you can look on your tax bill. So that automatically is something that you have paid. And the town has a community preservation committee. I believe it's 9 members, maybe slightly larger, representatives from affordable housing, representative from the selectmen, representative from historic preservation. And they make the recommendations to the town as to how that money can be spent. So they're keeping an eye on it. And they've made a policy decision, which not all towns have, is they don't appropriate and spend money that they anticipate getting in the coming year. We only do what we've already raised, has already been paid, and is sitting in the bank. So this will make no difference to anybody's taxes. It's money that's already there. It's just town meeting's decision about how they want to spend it, which of those 3 pots they want to fund: affordable housing, historic preservation, and the open space.
And the historic preservation and the affordable housing are pretty much, those boxes are checked off.
Yes, right.
By this project, yes?
Yep.
Yeah.
We hit 2 of the 3.
So the exterior of the building, as I understand, is going to remain just as it is.
It is, with one exception. When Coldwell Banker, it may have even been when Emerson Real Estate moved in,
or
but
DeWolf,
the entrance to the barn itself, which takes you into the main receiving area for the real estate office, that's contemporary. And so we will take that back to looking barn-like.
Good.
We're working very closely with the Historic Commission in town, who has unanimously endorsed this project and also unanimously endorsed the $450,000 appropriation from CPC. So our goal is that as people drive up Boston Road in perpetuity, and this will be a deed restriction on our owning the property, it must stay exactly as it looks now from the Boston Road side, and we will do that.
Fabulous, fabulous. And all that parking area in the front?
Well, we don't need that. Most people don't see it, but when Coldwell Banker took it over and added more space in the house, there's a very large parking lot behind the building. So aesthetically, we'd like to take out a whole bunch of that asphalt that's on the Boston Road side. We have permission from both the Conservation Commission and the Planning Board in town, both unanimously as well, I'm honored to say, to do that. We will leave 5 parking spaces. I think it may be 6, Cheryl, because our new Sue Thomas, who is now the town's sustainable coordinator, asked if we would allocate 2 spots to put in electric vehicle charging stations.
Oh, fabulous.
So people can get off 495, charge there, wander down to Panera's, get a sandwich, come back.
Or muffins.
Or muffins. That's a little bit longer walk. And then in addition, there will be 4 spots because between this property and the former orchard where Drew farm stand used to be, the town has a right-of-way. It says Peace Trail there. The Cub Scouts made a sign for that. And that leads back to a really lovely conservation area in town. But there's no access from Boston Road. So we'll provide 4 parking spaces for residents to be able to park there and walk down the Peace Trail into that lovely conservation land. It's truly wetland. It's wonderful birds and things. So that will provide that. And the icing on the cake, which has nothing to do with us, but the timing is perfect, is the state is about to do some major upgrade of Boston Road between 495 and Crown Road. And that includes continuing the sidewalk, which currently ends at Crown Road, all the way down to Route 110. So people will be able to park their cars, walk on the sidewalk instead of off the road, go down the Peace Trail, spend a lovely walk an hour, and then come back and retrieve their car.
Oh, fabulous.
If they wanted to do a double header, they could bring their electric car, have it be charging while they go to the Peace Trail. I hadn't thought about that, but
that checks off a lot of boxes, doesn't it, for people?
Yeah.
I mean, we're seeing more of those charging stations, but we still need more for sure. Can we talk a little bit about what's going to happen inside the building?
Yep. We're using exactly the same template that we have at 40 Main Street, which is 4 one-bedroom apartments and 1 two-bedroom apartments. The calls we get tend to be from single people who are just looking for a place to hang their hat. And we have an architect who's done a really creative use of that space, because before it was 2 families, and now he has to accommodate 5 units. He's met with our building commissioner, so it meets all of the code, and we'll be meeting with the fire department, but he knows what he's doing, so it's all in compliance. The exciting part is that, Cheryl, when we went to the Zoning Board of Appeals, we asked for permission to put up to 7 units in the house and the barn. But before we could design the barn, we had discussions with Habitat for Humanity of Greater Lowell on a completely different project and subject. And they have offered to put a 3-bedroom family home in the barn.
Fabulous.
And that just is such a, that sort of gives some credibility to what Mike and I and the Drew Farmhouse Board are doing to make it the whole property truly affordable. So ours will be for people, I don't need to get into, but all of what our decisions about who lives there is guided by standards established by the Housing for Urban Development, and we'll be working very closely with our Affordable Housing Committee. So people have to meet certain economic standards for what their income is based on HUD standards. Habitat's on their own. They have their own criteria for what a Habitat family is, so the choice of that family will have nothing to do with. But it's great they'll be our neighbors and part of it.
So I understand, and we can share with people, it's not affordable, but it's not market. It's somewhere in the middle there.
It's actually defined. Westford had a housing study done about what our needs are in the next 4 years, from 2022 to 2026. And this demographic, young people who can't afford to live here, is called workforce affordable housing. That's not our term, that's a HUD term. So it's not Section 8, it's not low income below 80%, but it is this middle group that's gotten lost, who make right between 80% and 100% of what's called the median income. So that's all established by people other than our board, and we will follow those directions.
And as a realtor, I can attest to how tough it is. First of all, the market's tough because there's just not enough product out there, not enough rentals, not enough for sale. But the prices, I mean, I really feel for people who are coming up and who want to stay in a town like Westford where they may have grown up, and it's just the prices are prohibitive. And this will give them a chance to move in at a reasonable price tag on their monthly rent and save some money so maybe they can buy a house and stay here.
Yeah. It's been really exciting for us because in the 7 years we owned 40 Main Street, we have had 2 of our renters, be able to go off and buy their own places.
Awesome.
And that's just exactly what we're hoping will happen. I wish that it could be 50 units and not 5.
I know.
But that's just the scale that we can't do. And our real mission was to save the farmhouse so it wasn't torn down. And given the septic system and the 2 acres, that's the maximum we can put there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Ellen, why is the upcoming town meeting important to all of this?
Because there will be no workforce affordable housing. We simply cannot get the funding to do it on our own, to take out the $2 million loan, the $1 million for the mortgage. We can finance that. The other reason is the town has already made a commitment to this, Cheryl, by accepting the Community Preservation Act and saying that we want affordable housing in Westford. And by the Select Board just a year ago adopting the Affordable Housing Plan, saying that, yes, workforce affordable is needed, it's important for the town to put its money where its reports are, and this will allow the town to do that. Same with the historic preservation. We've said that historic preservation is important to us. We have done an inventory of all the buildings in Westford of historic value. This building, built by George Drew is on that list. So it will allow the voters at town meeting to say, yes, this is important to us, and this is how we're willing to allocate the money we've set aside for this.
It's so exciting because for me, Westford is such a beautiful town, and that building is so wonderful. I mean, you and I have had discussions before about the feel of the building, the beauty of the building, and the importance of returning it. I mean, it looks so sad right now. I can't wait.
To mow the lawn.
I pulled some weeds the other day. I couldn't
too.
help myself. Don't tell anybody. That's got to be between you and me.
And I just might say that, back in the 1970s when the town did its first master plan, maybe it was our second, that area of coming up Boston Road was dubbed the gateway to Westford.
Yep.
And that building anchored it. That was the only home that was left down there, certainly from the mid-1800s, because after that you got to the Drew's Orchard. But on the left-hand side, you didn't hit an historic home until you got up to just past Crown Road.
Yeah.
So that really said, this is Westford's history, and here you go.
Yeah, and it's so recognizable because I know when I would have a new client and they would say, well, where's your office? I would say, well, the big red barn just off 490. Oh, I know where you are.
Yeah.
It's just so recognizable. Yeah. So this is all so good. This is all wonderful. And so where can people get more information about this project?
Well, we haven't gotten sophisticated enough to have a web page yet, but we have created a press release that's actually going to be going out in the next week or so, and we're going to have copies of that as many places in town as people will let us leave them on their counters. Okay. They're welcome to call me. My number's in the Westford directory as long as you spell Harde, Harde. And then we are there as Ellen and Mike. My email is the same as my street address, though it's 39 Main Street spelled out at gmail.com, so send those to me. I'd mentioned it being a three-way partnership, and I talked about the nonprofit and I talked about the town. We still have about a $300,000 gap in order to do this the way we want to, and those we're going to foundations, businesses, and you. We'd love to have residents, and we've gotten one $50,000 gift. Our very first gift
Fabulous.
was $50,000.
Good way to start.
So if we could get 5 or 6 in the $10,000, $25,000, $50,000, we'd love a $100,000 gift. It's tax deductible. We're established in that role. But that can be ongoing because construction will not start until the late winter, early spring of 2024. So people can give to us in both the 2023 and the 2024 tax year, and they'd both be tax deductible. But I'd be glad to answer questions, and I'm sure other members of the board too will. And you can watch, we'll be at the town meeting, and you'll hear even more.
Fabulous. That's so great. And I know that you've been very successful and very thorough. I mean, you've put a lot of work into this already, and you've been to the different committees, and you've gotten such positive feedback and response that a lot of those boxes, a lot of that work has been done.
Really, the only box left to check now is the town meeting and getting that extra $300,000. But because we have 6 or 7 months to do that, I'm optimistic about that. But you're absolutely right that to a board, starting with the Zoning Board of Appeals last May, their allowance to allow us to put 5 units in the barn. Yeah. In the house. That was unanimous. We had to go to the planning board for site review to say it was okay to do what we're doing there. That was unanimous. The Historical Commission has given unanimous support both of the concept and the money. So has the Affordable Housing Committee. And just last week, the town's Finance Committee voted to make a unanimous recommendation to town meeting that this money be expended for this purpose. Fabulous. So that speaks to the town understanding, and the town board's understanding that this workforce affordable housing is an imperative goal, and we can achieve at least a little bit of it with the farmhouse project.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
It's really, everyone has been, to a person, supportive, helpful. And also it's been so very local Westford. Our attorney was born and raised in Westford. Our architect graduated from Westford Academy. Just everybody. I want to have and we hope to use all Westford contractors because, Westford's giving us the money. It's Westford taxpayers' money. Yeah. We want to keep that back and make sure that our general contractor is from Westford. So we want to recycle that money and have it go back to Westford businesses. And so far, we've been able to do that.
Wonderful.
Our engineers in Westford, too.
So it's a win-win-win-win-win-win-win all around.
I'm not an objective responder to that, Cheryl.
I know.
But I agree with you.
I'm kind of not either, so to be honest with you. So, Ellen Harde, will you come back and update us as there's more progress?
I can hardly wait. We'll take lots of pictures of the groundbreaking. There will be no groundbreaking,
Yay.
but we'll cut some kind of ribbon inside the building when the first nail is cast, and we'd love to keep you updated.
All right, super. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for letting me come.
And I want to thank you for joining me. This is Cheryl Major with Westford Area Real Estate, the podcast. Thanking you for being here, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye.